Okay, you guys, now I want to talk about why people seem to go backwards. You know, you have people that's on a certain spiritual journey, right? And then suddenly they seem to go backwards. Okay, and it can be eating a certain way too. So, for example, one could be veganism. Veganism has become popular, so everybody wants to become a vegan. I'm gonna get into how a lot of people have fallen back off of veganism. And what else? In the metaphysical community, when you follow these trends, I'm trying to think. It was one person, it was a guy, melanated male, who was on some kind of trend doing something, and all of a sudden he just went backwards, okay? But I want to just talk about why people fall backwards, why people seem to fall off. Well, the thing to me is that these people are not really falling off the wagon. What it is that they weren't being themselves. They weren't being authentic to what their soul really wants. You know, I was listening to a guy's audio, and this is why I'm not a big fan of society. I'm not a big fan of society because society does like to tell you what you're supposed to do. I guess depends on what you want to follow though, because everybody still don't think the same. What was I going to say? Like, for example, with veganism, you know, people want to get on animal products and all this stuff and just want to hop on your case about things you do. So veganism has become a trend, and then you even see celebrities push a lot of veganism and stuff like that. And so a lot of people jump on the bandwagon and they brag about being a vegan, and then all of a sudden you see them falling off, but it's because they were never authentic to what they really love. They were following a trend. They wanted to fit in. I notice that's a big thing that's on Earth. Okay, I'm going to say Earth. That is a big thing. Now, depending on where you stay, it could be worse, and some places could be better. But that is a big problem on Earth, even if you're into Buddhism, even if you're into your higher self. It's still some kind of trend that goes on where people feel like they have to follow what a group of other people are doing, no matter what it is. I noticed that about Earth. Okay? And so this is what I was going to say. I was watching this guy's channel, okay? And he was talking about things that make your soul happy, because I kept talking about these high frequencies and ascending, and how people talking about all these high frequencies and ascension and things like that, and telling you how you're supposed to eat and telling you what you're supposed to do, you know. And this guy was I like what he said, because he said, maybe you're a person that might like to eat burgers. Maybe you're a person that might like to eat chicken. It might make your soul happy. And so when you're happy, you're kind of automatically on a higher frequency. But see, what people in the metaphysical community do like to do. Now, I know folks do say stay away from red meat. But here's the thing, what I want to say about red meat, though. I am aware. The people who tell everybody it's 8 billion people that you know of that might be on the planet, right? And so you have a person that wants to tell 8 billion people that they need to stay away from red meat. But everybody don't have the same kind of genetics. Everybody don't have the same kind of genetics. People say they don't like eating animals because of the way the animal was killed, especially in the United States. See, that's in that metaphysical community though. The way the animal was killed in such a way that the emotion of that animal is still in that meat. Okay, this is what the metaphysical community like to put on you too. But what about plants? Because they were alive too. Plants have spirits. They were alive. What about plants when you eat them? How do they feel? So some of these meat eaters got back on this plant-based vegetarian vegan community about trying to get on them about eating meat. But the point is that you can't get on 8 billion people. I don't know how many people. I'm coming up with a number. I know it's in the billions, okay? I know it's at least 5 or more. But you can't tell 8 billion people in the world what they need to be eating, okay? And so, because everybody, number one, have a different type of genetic makeup. Everybody are a different species. There's a lot of people that come here from different star systems. It's a lot of people that's not here that's not even human. I want to get into that into another video, because I'm going to talk about myself slightly on here, how I'm not from here either. I'm not from Earth either. I'm not an earthling. I live here. I spent several incarnations here. but I'm not an earthling. I'm not an earthling. I'm not human. Okay? And so you get these people that get into these movements that feel like they're so educated that they want to get online and tell everybody of every genetic code, of every species, whether they're human or not, what they're supposed to be eating. Never mind what they probably used to eat on their star system. For instance, a lot of people call them reptilians. They come from a certain star system. Well, their diet is eating children. Are they wrong for doing it? Who's to say? Because right now they control the planet. They're running the planet. So who's to say they are wrong? Because if it's such a problem what they're doing, then something else needs to take over. Instead of these beings, the beings that's eating a lot of these children are the ones that's running this planet. If it's such a problem to humanity that they do eat children, then humanity needs to do something about pushing them out and letting something else run the planet instead of a bunch of children eating reptilians or whatever. Now, all reptilians don't eat children, but a bunch of children eating reptilians, okay? We have a reptilian brain for that reason. A lot of us have reptilian brains because the planet is run by reptilians. So a lot of us, we have reptilian brains. We have a reptilian part of our brain, I'll say. A reptilian part of our brain. So anyway, I want to talk about why people fall off. And so it was another guy, melanated male. So it's one guy who talked about how he was a vegan and he used to stand in the streets and hold up all these signs about veganism and hurting animals and stuff. And all of a sudden he fell off and just eat meat like nobody's business. Because you cannot just, it's like these people, they lose their identity. And so like I say, it's not that they're falling off. It's not that they're going backwards. It's they really getting into their true authentic self. And it starts to look messy because now the guy is eating all kinds of meat. He has a mukbang channel where he eats all kinds of tacos, Wendy's, and all this stuff. I'm not criticizing it. It's just that now he needs to get to who he is because he's followed too many trends. He's followed what's popular. Even if veganism seems to be healthy, veganism is not for everybody. And I just really have a problem with people who tell somebody else that they just should never eat meat because everybody don't have the same genetic makeup. You have no business telling somebody else what they need to be eating. But I notice that's a problem with Earth, though. You know? And so what else was I going to say? And then, you know, you just have other ones who try to follow trends, okay? You have some certain other ones, you know, that try to follow different trends to do what they see people say that other people are supposed to be doing, right? You know, it could be something, you know, spiritual, maybe astrology, you know, it could be something else where you're listening to an influencer and they tell you that you're supposed to be following something, you know, you're supposed to be following something, you know, some type of idea, some type of spiritual, something that might cause spiritual enlightenment, and you have a group of people that follow it, and it becomes very popular, so you become a part of that thing too, and you feel like you're doing all well in life, you feel like you're doing good, you know, and then all of a sudden you feel like you just, okay, you don't do it no more, and then it just looks like you're falling back. It looks like you're going backwards. It looks like you're not really going backwards. You're coming into your own identity. Even though these people might say something and it might be healthy, and it could be a healthy thing that they're doing, but it's not something that you should be following. Maybe it's not a trend that you should be following. Maybe it's not what you truly want. It's not to say that being a vegetarian is not a bad thing. But if you truly don't want to be a vegetarian at that time, don't force yourself to do it just because it's a group of people that's talking about how you should never eat meat, right? Maybe you might become a vegetarian 2 years from now. Maybe that's your soul might really want, you know, to be vegetarian. You know, maybe you and your, you know, your desires might want to be a vegetarian, you know, then. So you can't force anything. You have to be ready. Your conscious mind has to be ready for any kind of change. It cannot be forced based on people and them making you, shaming you into doing whatever they feel like you should be doing. Okay? So that's all I want to say, you know, things like that and why people go backwards. Now I want to talk about myself and not being from here. So I was talking about how people get online and tell folks what to eat, and even talk about spiritual practices and what they need to be doing, you know, telling people what they need to be doing with their spiritual practices, which you can't really do that either, because everybody have their own way of doing things, right? You have some people that get online and kind of want to shame you because you don't talk to your ancestors every day. Well, then you have some people that feel like your ancestors are really a part of you. See, what do you believe? You have some people that feel like, you need to communicate with your higher self every day. You see what I'm talking about? So which one do you do? This is what I'm talking about, why you need to understand who you are. It's a lady on YouTube that has a metaphysical channel. She says, know thyself. Know thyself. Because a lot of these practices that people get online talking about doing, it's not how she practices. But you have some people that want to talk about that makes you feel bad because you don't do things the way they do it, or do things the way a particular group do it. I'm clearly, if you can hear my voice, I'm clearly a brown woman. I'm clearly a melanated woman. But do you know what? I have no interest in African spirituality. When I'm talking about African, people like to associate African spirituality with the Orishas, with the Orishas. And even, I'm not even in the Egyptology, Kemet. That's just not what my interest is. And I'm going to tell you something. I know I've lived around that time. I remember some of my incarnations around that time, and it's not a fit for me. I've done some things. I was a priestess in the temple of Isis, but I was never a patriarchal woman, and that's when patriarchal was already in place, okay? And I had some bad experiences. Even during that incarnation, I know I had some bad experiences, okay? Something really bad happened to me. So this is what I'm talking about. You got this popular stuff going on YouTube with Egyptology, with Kemet, African spirituality, with the Orishas. I can't relate to none of it. I can't do none of it, because I remember the time when I remember being around that time, and I did practice, get into some of their practices, but I never fit in with them. I never fit in with them because I didn't come from their bloodline. I did not come from their bloodline. I'm not from Earth, but a lot of people like the Egypt and Isis come from the star systems I come from anyway. But I come from a different type of matriarchal. I come from the very, very first matriarchs, okay? And you had some of the other women around the time of Egypt that pretty much came around during the time patriarchy had already started. I didn't come from that bloodline. I was familiar with another type of system. And so Egypt did not work for me. Kemet does not work for me. Okay? So I can't get into that. It's good to have the knowledge, but I can't get into it. But you know, me being a melanated woman, a lot of brown people would shame me because that's what's popular. Why isn't talking about the very first matriarchs and talking about Tiamat and what happened with Tiamat before a patriarchy took over, before Egypt and before Kemet? Why isn't that popular? Okay? See, I'm not being true to myself to be getting into all this Egyptology and to get all this Kemet stuff. I'm not being true to myself to get into all of that stuff, because I know it is a different sun than what I'm used to, okay? Than what my actual soul is used to, okay? And so that's what I want to talk about, why people seem to go backwards. Because people don't know thyself, and they're trying to understand who they are. And so they get into these trends, they get into stuff like veganism, it seems like it's healthy. They get into Egyptology, they change their names to Sekhmet, and all these different names that's not what they were born with. And do all this different stuff, They get into maybe in some cultures, maybe they want to try to be a yogi. See, it's not just about the United States, and I want to make that clear. It's not just about the United States. It's a problem with Earth. It's a problem with Earth. Now, I haven't been to too many. I don't have a memory of other places because I have been to other planets. I just don't have the memories of those places. So I can't really say that other planets are not like that. But even like in India, the yogi is very popular. So everybody try to be a yogi, and so although they seem so enlightened, You know, they have a different way of doing things, and they still have kind of a cult thing going on. You know, there's this cult practice that still goes on along with veganism and the whole Egypt Kemet type stuff. It's still a cult type thing that goes on, even with the yogi, even the ones that feel like they so enlightened, even with the Buddhists. It's still a cult type practice, even though you trying to reach your higher self, you know, and you're meditating. It's still cult type things that goes on, you know, and people still follow trends. And if it's not something that you feel like you really, really, really want to do, don't just do it because it's popular. It could be something that's healthy, yeah. But is there something that you feel like you want to stick to? Okay? Don't just force yourself to do it because you see it's popular and you feel like you just have to do it, or something is wrong with you. It's to get to know yourself. Some people don't meditate at all. It's one that's on that I see that she's very enlightened, but she don't close her eyes and meditate like that. I do. I close my eyes and meditate, but she don't close her eyes and meditate like that, and she's highly enlightened. So you can't tell people to do everything the same way you do it. Okay, you can't tell people that. And so people, somebody asked her about ancestors. Do she do ancestor worship? And she said, in her opinion, ancestors are just an extension of herself. It depends on what kind of energy you want to tap into, because she feels like energy is energy. You see what I'm talking about? That's why you got to be careful telling people what to do. That's why you got to be careful. Even if like I say, I want to work with Lakshmi, Sri Lakshmi on getting money. Well, in my opinion, the Sri Lakshmi is a part of myself, and I need to tap in that part of myself that is Sri Lakshmi. That's my opinion now. For me, in my opinion, Sri Lakshmi is not outside of me. Sri Lakshmi is inside of me. That's how I feel. That's how I feel. So I have to tap into that part of myself that is Sri Lakshmi. But it's other people that feel like Sri Lakshmi is on the outside. But I have to know who I am. I have to know who I am. And that's why I don't have a lot of people. I don't have people around me, period. I don't like that, because you have to know who you are. You have to know who you are. But that's all I want to talk about, why people just fall off, and they seem to fall off the wagon when it comes to these popular trends. It could be fasting every Wednesday. It could be veganism. It could be Egyptology. You know, you could have somebody deep into Egyptology for like about a couple of years, and all of a sudden you see they don't care nothing about no Egypt. Because they're getting into something. Hebrew Israelites, you know, Christianity. And so when people stop following and stop practicing these things, it seems like they're falling off. But no, and it could be something that you were supposed to do for a particular time, because maybe you're on a journey. That's another thing. Maybe I was a Christian, and I'm not a Christian now, but I would never ever regret that experience of me being a Christian, because I was a hardcore Christian when I haven't been to Israel. Okay, I haven't been to Israel. I used to read the Bible every year. I mean, I used front to back, because they had what's called a one-year Bible. And I had the concordance and all that stuff, and I was in intercessory prayer. But I'm not anymore, because we are on a life path. We have a journey. And so I stay away from people, because I don't like society, the way society wants to question decisions that you make. Just let them make their decisions. People are on a life path. People might ask, why aren't you a Christian anymore? People might ask, why aren't you Hebrew Israelite anymore? People might ask, why aren't you a vegan anymore? Why aren't you into Egypt anymore? Okay? And they feel like that you're just lost because you don't do these things no more. But actually, it was just only a part of your journey. What folks don't understand is that Earth is a school. Earth is really a boot camp. I don't think people understand how bad Earth is. Earth is covered in darkness. It ain't ascending. Because whatever this is, I don't feel like this is a planet. To be honest with you, I don't feel like it's a planet. But it ain't ascending nowhere. Okay? Maybe some other kind of Earth is ascending, but this ain't ascending. You can't have something that's covered in darkness and then call itself ascending, because it's too much darkness that's being spread. If it's really on this path to ascension, to become more light and less dense, right? then it wouldn't be so much darkness that's spreading. It's too much darkness that's spreading for it to really, really ascend like it should. The earth is not going to become more light. It's going to become more dense. Just based on social media, the way you see society is, the way you see all the division is, it's a very, very dense, and it's not going to move up. Okay? So, that's all I'm saying. And so that's why I call Earth is basically a boot camp. But you don't stay in boot camp forever. And that's why I'm going to end this here, getting into another audio. If you guys listen to this long, you guys can let me know if this is something that you can relate to. Do you feel like Earth is, do you feel like you fit in on Earth or whatever this is? Because I don't feel like it's a planet. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't feel like it is a planet. But do you feel like, you know, there are so many lies. I don't want to stay on a planet where you can't get the truth either. You cannot get the truth here. Even the planets that people call the planets are probably not the actual names. There are so many lies. You've been indoctrinated with school. You've been taught the wrong things in school. You've been taught the wrong thing in history, especially so-called Black Americans, African Americans. We're told they all came on boats from Africa when a lot of them were, you know, native to this land, native to the American land, the United States land, before, prior to Europeans arriving, but they were told lies in school. There's too many lies. You don't know what the truth is, and it's hard to know who you are because there's too many lies that's on Earth. There's too many lies. You don't know where the truth is. Okay? That's why I call Earth a boot camp. It's not a good place to stay. I'm not going to even call it, I don't know what this is. I don't know what this is. All I know is it's a doggone boot camp. And do you stay in boot camp forever? When you finally graduate, do you stay in it forever? You know, when you have dreams of that you miss in class, and you have dreams that you're going to school, and you have dreams that you're graduating, what does that mean? That means that Earth is very low. Or whatever this thing is it's very low. And the fact that you're going to school, letting you know that Earth is a school. And that you finally graduated. You graduated to the next level of consciousness, okay? But if you were already on a planet that's already light and not as dense as whatever this thing is, because I don't know what to call it. It's too many lies going around for me to call it whatever it's supposed to be. It's just too many lies. It's too many. The truth is just nowhere to hardly be found. Okay? And so, would you want to stay here? Do you feel like this, whatever this thing is, that's supposed to be called Earth? Is this the end all be all? Or if you had a choice, do you feel like you fit in here? Do you feel like no matter how you try to, it's like you can't fit in with humanity? Forget a particular color person. A particular ethnicity person. Do you just feel like you don't fit in with humanity? Do you feel like your relationships, not just with the opposite sex, but with just people, period? You can have a conversation with them. You can have a nice conversation with them. You know, talk to them. You can be outgoing, but it seems like the relationships don't work. And it's like you have to try too hard. You have to put too much effort in. But it just seems like the relationships on this planet just don't seem to be natural for you. Okay? Do you feel like people don't really understand you when you think you speak in whatever your language is? You think you clear, whether it's plain English, whether it's plain Japanese, or whether it's plain whatever, French, Spanish, whatever you're speaking. If you feel like you clear in what you're saying, and it seems like people don't get you, it's like, what the heck am I saying wrong? You have to question, do you feel like Earth is a good fit? Do you feel like you're supposed to be on Earth? Because it's like you have to try too hard. Okay? And if so, I think I said earlier that I'm not an earthling. I'm not an earthling. I've incarnated here, but I'm not an earthling. Okay? And I'm not a hybrid. Some people are hybrids, and so they can get along in Earth because they're hybrids. I'm not a hybrid. That's why I feel so out of place, because I'm not even a hybrid. Okay? So, what do you think? Do you think Earth is this thing that's called Earth? Do you think it's the end all be all? Okay? And I know this is the reason why I asked that question. I just want to hear the comments, because I mean, some people feel like it's too much to go from one continent to the other. So never mind going to another planet. That could just be harsh. But some of us don't have anything to lose, especially in my case. I have absolutely zero to lose. Zero to lose if I was to go anywhere else. Because as long as I don't have to deal with no burials and stuff, you know, we're vibrational beings. So everything is not as solid as we think it is. We're vibrational beings. And so, you know, people have actually gone to other planets where their bodies will come back together. Okay? And they will talk about their experiences when their bodies come back together. It take them a while because they all discombobulated. They have to get their balance back. They have to get grounded again. It's because their bodies have to come back together. Okay? And so you don't have to just, you know, die on Earth and then go somewhere else. You know, you can actually go in your physical body, depending on how, if that planet is not as dense. If that planet is not as dense, then you might be in another light body. Okay? But that doesn't mean, you know, but anyway, you know, it's just open your mind to different experiences. Open your consciousness to different experiences. You don't want to really be on a place that's too dense anyway, because you see how this thing is. So much darkness in the world. I don't think I want to be on a place that's too dense anyway. And this thing that's called Earth, it ain't ascending. It is not ascending. You think it's ascending. It's not ascending. You got these metaphysical channels talking about 5D and parallel worlds. And you know what's so funny? A lot of times when these people talking about going into parallel worlds and imagine what you want to and putting emotion around it and it can manifest, you know, it's mostly about money. And I don't have a problem with money in a material world. You need money in a material world. But that is not going to make the planet less dense. And when I look at a lot of these metaphysical channels, even with the Indians, because I look at when it comes to my spirituality, I am very, I relate more with Indian practices, okay? I relate more with Indian, the way the Indians practice, and Buddhists, okay? But I'm not into anybody else's religion, okay? I can just relate to the things that they do, but I'm not in anybody's religion, okay? And so, even with that, majority is going to be talking about money. It's going to be talking about protecting yourself from people who want to harm you, whether it's using witchcraft, whether it's at the job. See, a lot of these metaphysical videos, whether it's Indian, whether it's Asian, because I don't listen to, even though I'm a melanated woman, I don't listen to melanated people that much. That lets you know that you got to know who you are. Just because you look a certain way don't mean you have to listen to certain looking people if you can't really relate to what they're saying. You have to know who you are. Okay? And you have to know who you are to know that maybe Earth is not the place for you. Maybe you feel like your life can't get the way you want it to be because maybe it's this particular thing. I'm going to call it a plane. Instead of a planet, I'm going to call it a plane. Look, a plane and you're inside of a net. You're inside of a net. But anyway, so maybe it feels like no matter what happens, it seems like your soul, you try to do everything, spirituality rising, it seems like you just can never get there. Maybe you shouldn't be here. Maybe it's time to rise to that next level, that realm of consciousness and move on. And open your mind up to less dense areas. Okay? You know, maybe you shouldn't be in a plane that's so dense. And I'm not talking about people like, well, I'm 5D, I'm 60, I'm 70. Look, it's probably best to get off of that because you're still in a sort of a 3D body. Even with a 6D, 7D, 8D consciousness, you're still interacting with 3D people with a 3D consciousness on a daily basis, unless you're somewhere in the Himalayas. Unless you're somewhere in the Himalayas, because that's where a lot of people practice a lot of higher self type of meditations. Or anywhere else where they do that, where majority of the people do those kind of things, where it's definitely might be less dense in those areas. It doesn't matter if you call yourself 5D, 6D, 7D. When you leave out that house, you're interacting with people with a 3D consciousness. And so you're constantly mixed in with the rotten apples. You're constantly mixed in with the rotten apples. Maybe you need to go somewhere where you're not mixed in with a bunch of rotten apples. Okay? And it could be moving to a different type of continent where people are more on a higher level of consciousness, instead of being somewhere where you can have to constantly meditate, but the people that surround you are not on that level. And so, you know, there's a such thing as thought forms and collective consciousness. And if no matter how much you meditate, if you keep getting out into the world where you're around these people that might be lower, then it makes you have to work that much harder to keep yourself up there. Okay? Okay, I done said a lot, you guys. So I hope somebody answer. And you guys let me know what you're thinking. I'll talk to you soon.